Pretty sure you've all heard of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, right? It's pretty straightforward. You answer questions, you have lifelines to help you, you win money, and you work your way up to reaching the ultimate prize, $1 million. It's such a simple game, but yet this show has managed to captivate audiences all around the world. It has a charm, a timeless allure that makes it one of the most thrilling game shows to watch on television. It's why Millionaire never really made any major changes to its format for a while. The US, the UK, and most other countries around the world all stuck to the same classic 15 questions, 3 lifelines format. That was Millionaire. As time went on, the show went through numerous changes, different hosts, new lifelines, the amount of questions changed, a new clock, but the one thing that was going to stay the same was the iconic question format. Well, that was the case for the US version until 2010, when it was announced that the show was going to be reinvented with a brand new format for its upcoming 9th season. Millionaire introduced the shuffle format, and everything changed drastically. This version was going to be game-changing, more based on strategy, and more unpredictable. It was totally different from the version we all knew and loved, and most people hated it. Look man, the classic format was just too iconic. It was the show's bread and butter, so it understandably disappointed a lot of people when it was changed. Back then and even now, people think that this was the worst version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and that this version of the show should have never seen the light of day. However, this got me thinking, was the change really that bad? Are people just being too nostalgic? Were they hating too much? Was the shuffle format of Millionaire really that bad? Or was it still enjoyable to watch?
No!
Well, let's take a deeper look. Throughout the 5 seasons of the shuffle format, the show had 3 different hosts. Meredith Vieira hosted the first 3 seasons, and I think we can all agree she did a really good job. Cedric the Entertainer had a short run, only hosting 1 season. I found him a little boring at times, but he did bring a distinct flavor to the show. Terry Crews brought in a lot of energy when he hosted, and that's something you really love to see. I really liked him as the host, but just like Cedric, he was the host for only 1 season, which was the final season of the shuffle format. Now, let's talk about the gameplay. Good lord. So, what exactly changed? The game was now split into 2 rounds, the Super Mix round and the classic Millionaire round. During the Super Mix round, contestants faced 10 multiple choice questions, each with an assigned money value. These 10 questions and their respective money values, ranging from $100 to $25,000, were shuffled before the gameplay commenced. Contestants could view the shuffled order of questions, but the money values were kept hidden. Correctly answering a question added the money value to the contestant's bank, while an incorrect response dropped their winnings to a consolation prize of $1,000, sparing them from losing everything. Exiting the round allowed contestants to take half of their accumulated money until that point. To aid contestants, 3 lifelines were available. Well, actually for a couple seasons, it was technically 2. The Ask the Audience lifeline involved polling the audience for the correct answer, while Jump the Question, which could be used twice, revealed the right answer and associated money value. However, using this lifeline meant sacrificing the money value, though the contestant could keep playing. In a later season, a new lifeline called +1 was introduced, replacing one of the 2 jumps, enabling contestants to invite a friend from the audience to assist them with a question without any time limit. After successfully completing the Super Mix round, contestants entered the classic Millionaire round. This phase featured 4 non-categorized questions with increasing money values of $100,000, $250,000, $500,000, and of course, the ultimate grand prize, $1 million. Unlike the Super Mix round, these questions became progressively tougher. If the contestant decided to quit before answering the $100,000 question, they could take the full contents of their bank. However, an incorrect answer to any of the final 4 questions led to an elimination and a return to a safety net of $25,000. So yeah, that's basically it. A lot of significant changes to make things feel more interesting. Some felt that the linear structure of the classic format was too simple and a bit flawed. 15 questions felt lengthy, there wasn't that much strategy, and episodes felt slow. It also felt time-consuming to some, and also too predictable, but with the shuffle format, it may feel way more refreshing, because questions are randomized, so you can't anticipate the difficulty, so it makes the game more unpredictable and challenging. Things like the jump lifeline can allow the show to progress faster, so episodes are shorter and more dynamic, and there's also more strategy now because you never know for sure what you're going to walk away with due to the randomized amounts and difficulties. You could walk away early, you might jump a question or two and progress quicker, but miss out on a potentially huge cash value. So you have to be more strategic when playing this version of Millionaire. It feels much more exciting to watch. You combine it with the show's revamped atmosphere, the lights are brighter, the set is bigger and feels more dynamic, the usage of the big video screens are nice, and the music sounds more lively. It makes Millionaire feel very refreshing. However, in the process of trying to keep things fresh, the show also lost a bunch of iconic and important parts from the classic format that made Millionaire Millionaire. First, it lost the suspense of the original. The intense music, the dim lighting, the iconic hot seat, and the rising tension created a dramatic and anticipatory atmosphere that set Millionaire apart from other game shows. This thrilling ambience captivated audiences worldwide, keeping them engaged and on the edge of their seats. The shuffle format got rid of that suspense and tension that had been synonymous with the show for years. They changed the entire set, removed the hot seat, changed the overall atmosphere, and as a result, fans couldn't help but feel that the show had lost a part of its magic, an aspect that had made it so memorable and compelling. Another thing about the shuffle format that gets criticized, its complex gameplay. While it indeed brought a refreshing change, many fans found it unnecessary. The classic format had won hearts with its simplicity and straightforward gameplay. Everyone still loved it. The shuffle format's added complexity seemed to deviate from what fans cherished most about the show. You know what they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The classic format was what made Millionaire a worldwide phenomenon. It was what audiences grew accustomed to. It never needed a complete overhaul. It was simple and easy to understand and watch. The things that the shuffle format changed, while kinda cool, definitely weren't needed. In addition to the shuffle elements, the lifelines weren't really that helpful. Yeah, you had to ask the audience and +1 for a cup of coffee, cool, but yeah. I'm not really a big fan of jump the question. The question gets skipped, and you progress faster, yes, but it also means you have to eliminate a certain amount of money, and that's quite disappointing. Also, whose idea was it to have not one, but 2 jumps in the game? That was just completely unnecessary. Instead of having 3 distinct lifelines, one of them took up 2 of the 3 lifeline spots, and as a result, it made the game less engaging. Like, okay, I get it. It all had to do with making the game more strategy-based, but I mean, having only jump the question and ask the audience doesn't really sound all that helpful. You technically really only have 2 lifelines at your disposal, and only one of them can actually help you get the correct answer and win money. With the 2 jumps, you're forced to lose out on a certain dollar amount by entirely skipping the question, therefore, you reduce the chance of maximizing your bank. Eventually they did have +1, which was a really good lifeline to have, but come on guys, did you really have to keep the jump? I'm sorry, but give me 50-50, give me double dip, hell, you can even give me switch the question over this dumb lifeline. Just give me something that can genuinely aid me and help me earn some cash. Oh, and by the way, I know this may be a little off topic, but I want to take some time to just point out no one in the 5 years of the shuffle format's existence actually won the $1 million top prize. And I think it's mainly because the questions were just so unbelievably hard. I mean, it's supposed to be that way, of course. You're not supposed to have an easy road to $1 million, but let's compare it to the classic format. The questions were tough, yes, but reasonably so. If you had solid knowledge of general trivia, you would have a decent shot at becoming a millionaire. But in the shuffle format, it's like getting lowballed. The round 2 questions just felt so random, so specific, and so obscure. It felt like unless you were an absolute trivia wizard, you had no shot at even making the $1 million question. There were only 2 people who got there. Chip Eston would correctly answer a question about a license plate on the Beatles' famous Abbey Road cover, which... Jesus Christ, who would keep such a minuscule detail in mind? Look at this album cover, and look at how small that license plate is. I mean, thank God he's a Beatles fan, because if he wasn't, I guarantee you, there was no way he was getting that question right with no lifelines. Oh, and guess what his $1 million question was about? Which one of these synonyms for drunkenness were not included in a 1737 Benjamin Franklin book about drinking that no regular human being on Earth would care about? Needless to say, Chip walked away with $500,000. We also had Jacina Reeves answer questions about the first astronaut to wet his spacesuit and the first celebrity to appear on the TV series Biography. She would jump both of those questions and advance to the $1,000,000 question about a specific section on Astromedis' 1555 treatise. Bro, if you had a gun to the back of your head and you had to answer that question correctly to continue living, and by some miracle you actually got it right, you are Albert Einstein, my guy. What? Oh, but guess what she did? With no lifelines left, she guessed. And got it wrong.
The correct answer was D.
And would go home with just $25,000. Kudos for having the guts to gamble, being the only one to do so, but yeah, that was not the smartest idea. I mean, at least you're not Ken Basin.
Lost a lot of money. It's Fresca.
Even in a shuffle format video, we still gotta have Ken Basin slander. So yeah, with questions of this caliber, winning the $1,000,000 in this version demanded an exceptionally sharp mind. Going back to the lifelines real quick, if you somehow manage to make it to round 2 with all 3, buy a lottery ticket. That's the only situation I would be somewhat grateful the jumps exist. They would be a saving grace for progressing to higher valued questions in such a formidable round. However, you'd still miss out on the question's monetary value. You could very well lose out on opportunities to earn a handsome cash sum to walk away with, so it's still far from the most ideal lifeline to have at this critical juncture. I mean, seriously, the jumps are just not the most useful lifeline to have in any situation throughout this entire game. I don't know, man, it just feels so stupid to have a lifeline that doesn't actually assist you. If I were playing this game, I would be determined to make the most out of every opportunity. I'd want to maximize my bank as much as possible. I don't want to lose out on a potentially significant amount of money. This is a game where every dollar counts, and the fear of skipping a potentially high-value question is disheartening. The shuffle format already brings in a whole new level of unpredictability and challenge to the game, so why add another layer of complexity with the 2 jumps? It feels like overkill and can discourage contestants from taking risks and aiming for higher value questions. The classic format had a good balance of not just simplicity but excitement when it came to lifelines. The original 3, 50-50, phone a friend and ask the audience, not only provided valuable assistance, but they also had viewers anticipating if the contestant was gonna receive the help they needed or stumble. It was a winning combination that kept you on the edge of your seat. The classic format perfected lifelines. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for the shuffle format. That's the dilemma, you know. The shuffle format tried its hardest to innovate, but by doing so, they ended up removing the charm it once had amongst viewers. The classic format's authenticity had etched the show into the cultural fabric, creating an enduring legacy that resonated with people. The show's genuine appeal had been its greatest strength, and it was this very authenticity that had endeared Millionaire to its audience for generations. Unfortunately, the shuffle format's changes jeopardized that legacy, leaving fans nostalgic for the original and missing the authenticity that had made the show so iconic. Luckily for them, in 2015, Millionaire went back to its roots. The shuffle elements were no more, and it was back to good old classic Millionaire. Yeah, they didn't change the set, but we got the classic gameplay back. No extra gimmicks were added. Chris Harrison was a fantastic host. Millionaire felt like Millionaire again. I feel like this version was definitely the most underrated version of Millionaire. It doesn't get talked about that often, but it was enjoyable to watch. In 2020, the show got rid of the shuffle set and changed it to one reminiscent of the UK version, and all remnants of the shuffle format were officially gone. I'll agree that the shuffle format is indeed the worst version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but it's not entirely bad, although it's not necessarily good. There's still a bunch of elements from this version that I can appreciate, but at the same time, there are some elements that I really dislike and feel were unnecessary to change. It all leaves me with mixed feelings in the end. However, a part of me is glad this format existed because it gave us this legendary moment.
HB Orgasm, Independent Filth Channel, Skinamax, Screw Time. $69%. 69% of you perverts, you.